invite a chef, live food or raw food, to show us how to prepare simple recipes. Today with us we have Laura. Laura has been for many years preparing fermented food. And today she's going to show us how to make the Beet Kvass, that is a probiotic tonic. With you, Laura, you say what you want to say about yourself and your business.
Okay, well, let's see. I've been vegan for 28 years. This is my husband and 2 of my 3 children who are completely vegan. They've been vegan their whole lives. Even my 21-year-old is still vegan. So I did a sauerkraut demo for the Earth Save event about a year ago, approximately. And that was basically because I started selling fermented foods at the farmers markets here in Miami a few years ago. I partnered with Buster Brown of Counterculture Kombucha, and I have his business card up here. So we make kombucha. That's our primary business. And sell it at farmers markets and stores and restaurants, and it's kind of like expanded all over Miami and Palm Beach County, even down into the Keys. So I started out, we would share a booth together, and I was selling Beet Kvass and sauerkraut and kimchi and salad dressings made with Beet Kvass, because it's a great thing to add to salad dressings. Instead of using vinegar or lemon, you can use the Beet Kvass. And then it just kind of just became my working for him, making kombucha and helping him sell it at the farmers markets. And so I don't really sell the Beet Kvass anymore, but if anyone's interested after the demo, I can give you my phone number and I can make it for you if you don't want to make it yourself. It's very easy to make though, as you'll see. But it would kind of like be under the table sort of thing. It wouldn't be like something made in our certified kitchen where we make the kombucha. And without further ado, maybe I'll just go into how to make it. So Beet Kvass is traditionally a Russian fermented beverage. They say there's no Ukrainian home without Beet Kvass, or also without kvass, because originally it was a bread. It was made from bits of bread dough, either wheat or rye bread, fermented with water, starter culture, and salt, and tasted kind of like beer. And then I guess they also decided to also make it, over the years out of beets as well. And the Beet Kvass, it does taste a little bit like beets. It's a little bit bubbly, a little salty. I like to just drink it. If you drink like a little bit in the morning and a little bit at night, about 4 ounces each time, it really promotes digestion, and it's a very cleanses the liver, does a lot of great, it alkalizes the blood, treats kidney stones, it promotes regularity, a blood tonic, aids digestion, like I said. And it has super strong, as you know with beets, there's such a dark red color, and even the golden beets, all beets have beta-cyanins, which is what gives beets their color. So it's super, super rich in antioxidants. And then when you ferment something, you're getting, all the values that are in vegetables, you're getting it so much more, much stronger, healthier dose, basically, of all those vitamins that are inherent, because of the fact that you fermented it and you made it more bioavailable and more digestible. So, this recipe that I have on here to share with you guys is just to make a quart. So, anybody can make just a quart of a fermented beverage. If you wanted to make more and have lots of it, because you're starting to really notice the health benefits as you drink some of it, then you would increase this recipe. I have 4 gallons brewing right now at home, so I have 1-gallon jars. And unlike things like kombucha, sauerkraut, things like that, when you brew those, you need a cloth lid because it needs to breathe. Beet Kvass needs a nice tight fitting lid. I learned that the hard way. So I'll just start. All I'm going to do basically is cut these beets up. I skin them. Some people say if they're organic, you don't have to skin them. But from my own experience, I have found much more success if I do peel them. And you're going to chop them up like coarsely chopped. So very small little bits. And then, so you're going to only fill your jars up if you have a quart jar, a half gallon, 1 gallon, whatever size. You're only going to fill it up to about 1/3 of the way with the beets. And then you're going to sprinkle on the salt, the amount that it calls for in your recipe. And it's really good to help add more probiotic value if you have a brine. So eventually, if you make this on a regular basis, you reserve some of your brine for your next batch. Just like in any probiotic, fermented foods that you make, you reserve a brine or a culture, mother culture, sometimes they're called starter culture, to help ferment your new batch. So after putting my beets in and a sprinkle of the salt, I will put in a little bit of this is like the mother culture, and then just fill it up with water, leave like about 1 inch of space. Put the lid on, let it sit at room temperature, whatever your room temperature is at your house. It doesn't matter if you don't have air conditioning or if you do, but you're going to leave it out at room temperature. And anywhere between 2 days to 7 days, approximately. It's about the time for a Beet Kvass. If you have, the warmer the environment or the room temperature, the faster it'll ferment. So then you would really only want to go like 2 days. And like some people do it in the winter, they'll go like the full 7 days because it's colder. It takes a little longer to ferment.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
If I want to try this at home, and I don't have a starter, then what do I do with that?
You can start with your own, just the very first batch. You want to add a tiny bit more salt than the recipe calls for. You can also use the brine of a raw sauerkraut, not the kind you buy in the store sitting on the shelf. You want a raw sauerkraut or a raw kimchi. The keepers and the kombuchas, they don't recommend using that as a starter. So,
so if I made sauerkraut, which
Yes.
I plan to do this week,
Yes.
and I saved some of that, I could use
the
it
brine,
with
the
it.
liquid, yep. You're just going to put in, following your recipe, depending on what size containers you're making, you're going to put in this size, I use about a 1/4 cup of a brine. But, and then with your next batch, then your Beet Kvass would be your next brine to add to your next batch. So yeah, you can start without having a mother culture, because you'll start making your own.
Can I ask you, Laura, does this, for a person who, for instance, can't eat yeast, would this create a yeast effect in the physiology, do you know?
I don't believe so. I'm not totally certain, but I know that for me personally, I'm extremely prone to yeast infections. I have been my whole life.
Yeah.
And as soon as I started drinking large amounts of kombucha and eating a lot of other, the Beet Kvass, the sauerkraut, I also make sauerkraut and kimchi. And as soon as I started consuming those things, that the yeast is what ferments it. That is the culture, is yeast, but they're in the transformation process. When we drink that, what it does is the opposite effect. It helps to push the bad yeast, I guess, out of the body. And so if I don't do those things, I do get yeast infections very quickly and very easily. So I know when I miss a day.
Very interesting. Well, I was going to say I was a certified herbalist. My field was preventive medicine. I was aromatherapist and foot reflexology. I did a lot. Well, as you were sharing, in my mind, I was processing how this would be an outstanding, really, colon, just for colon health in general. One of the reasons being that it's liquid. It absorbs right away.
Right,
and
goes
then the
quickly to the
beets are so
bloodstream.
good for the blood. So I'm thinking of the logic, but then I said to myself, what about the beets? So I'm glad you clarified that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
just from my own personal experience, yeah, I find that it's very good for
And the sweet
controlling the yeast in the body.
beets are very sweet,
Mhm.
but when they are fermenting, they are deep.
That's true.
Yeah, it transforms
Very true.
into something much more digestible and usable for the body. When I first started making it, I wasn't really sure what coarsely chopped meant, because I'm not a chef, I'm not trained really. So I would chop them up in like 1-inch chunks, and I found that I had a lot of mold problems. So, and conversely, you do not want to shred them, because that will make them brew into alcohol. So you want something kind of in between. So some people say like a 1/2-inch size little chunks. I just do them, you know, pretty small, just kind of roughly chopped.
Good clarification.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
kind of found out a lot of things by trial and error.
Yes. Very interesting.
Just little pieces.
Okay, just little pieces. Put them right in your jar. So then after,
Three or
What's
four
that?
each.
yep.
How many?
This I'm gonna just fill it up till my jar is about 1/3 of the way full. So then afterward, you're not gonna discard, after your first batch, you're not gonna discard your beets. I mean, you can if you want, of course, but it's good. Go ahead and keep those same beets. Reserve a little bit of the brine, and I say that here on the recipe too. Just make a whole nother batch. So you've had it refrigerated for a little while, and you were consuming it little by little. And when you get down to just a little bit of the liquid left, leave that in the jar, and just put in maybe another pinch of a good quality sea salt, and fill your jar back up to about 1 inch from the top. Put the lid back on, let it sit at room temperature again for another 2 to 7 days, depending on the temperature of your kitchen. And then that's ready again in 2 to 7 days. And some people say, I mean, it does get weaker the more times you do that. So some people say only do it twice, only use the same beets twice. Some people say go ahead and use them 3 times. It's just going to get a little bit weaker over time.
Where else can you get like double your money just like that?
Yeah, exactly.
right.
And you can even eat the beets when they're finished. You can put them in a salad or, yeah. So I have to tell you guys a funny little story. So I grew up in a very, very small town in Amish country in Pennsylvania. It's called Elverson. And I didn't make Beet Kvass as a kid. I did make sauerkraut. Well, I learned about it through my grandfather. Anyway, so I guess about 15 years ago I started, making Beet Kvass off and on. And I've been living here in Miami back for another, I don't know, it's been about 6 or 7 years. I've been back in Miami. And so I was selling the Beet Kvass, like I was telling you, at the farmer's market with my business partner, selling Beet Kvass, sauerkraut, his kombucha. And so one day I'm in Whole Foods. And now, remember, Elverson, very small town. When I was a child, I thought there maybe was 100 people in my town altogether. It was a very small town. So I'm walking in Whole Foods one day, this was a couple of years ago, and I always check out their fermented beverage coolers, naturally. I said, oh wow, there's a Beet Kvass, and I reach in, pull it out, look at it, and I go, wow, there's finally somebody made Beet Kvass for sale. And here I am in Miami, in Whole Foods, and I'm looking at the label, and I flip it over, I'm reading the ingredients, oh that's good, sounds good, and I get down to where it was made. Elverson, Pennsylvania. I looked down, like standing there going, that's a joke, right? Somebody's gonna like pull a curtain on me and say this is, I thought, man, this is still a very small town, and it's for sale in Whole Foods. It's Beet Kvass.
What do you call it? Beet Kvass?
We do, yeah.
Spell it.
The Beets is B-E-E-T, Kvass is K-V-A-S-S.
K-V.
K-V, V like Victor, yeah, Kvass.
K-V-A-S-S. Beet Kvass.
Then after that, here is the recipe. You can take a photo with your smartphone.
But there, I don't know if you guys ever have had it or if you've seen it in their store. I believe they add, or even if they still have it for sale, but they add stevia. I mean, maybe you all like stevia. I'm not a big stevia fan. I don't like the flavor of it. I grew it as an herb once in my garden, and I loved it just to eat it fresh. But as a sweetener, I'm not a big fan. And I did not like their Beet Kvass.
Yeah, I would rather have it like you're doing it raw.
Yeah, it's a lot simpler this way.
Do you have individual copies, or you just have the one?
I meant to make, if you give me your email, I'll send you a copy
I'm
through
gonna get
email.
on my friend here. Can you take a picture of that and send it to me?
I'll take it closer.
I apologize for not having a recipe printed out.
Just, I don't have a,
But I'm happy to email anyone that wants the recipe. Oh, and you can also try flavoring it. There's some people that make it and they add different flavors to it. I mean, I personally prefer it plain like this
Yeah.
because it's quite. Oh, you'll see if
It's healthier.
maybe I
So
can
much
get.
healthier.
You want to help make samples for people? So you can flavor it with ginger, cloves, orange peel, cardamom. You know, you can play around with just putting in a little spices into the brewing. Do you want to?
So usually for 2 days, 2 days up to 1 week.
This
What would be the difference?
this batch that I'm giving you tonight was brewed for 4 days.
Or how do you know when it's ready?
at what temp?
So you'll
though?
see at room temperature.
But what's your room?
Whatever it was outdoors.
Yeah, we don't have air conditioning and we're pretty open, so the last couple of nights though it got quite cold. So what was I gonna? Oh, somebody
Are you
asked when you know it's
passing out the
ready.
treats?
So you'll see little
keep
bubbles
passing.
coming up. When you see little bubbles coming up in I recommend using clear glass when you make it so you can see what it looks like while it's brewing. And you'll
Got
see
some
little
more?
bubbles coming up. And you
You
can
won't
also,
blow the top off though, right?
no, if you can burp it every day, what they call burping, so you're just releasing the lid and letting a little air out. You wanna do this?
Laura, I have
So
to
you
say to
just
you,
put that and then how much water?
Just, you're gonna fill it up. You're gonna fill it up to about an inch below, the top.
And you just cover it and leave it there for 2 to 4 days.
And, yeah, in a dark place is preferable, but someplace where it won't be disturbed.
I was gonna say to you, you can actually taste the brine because it tastes just a little bit like dill pickle. And I gotta tell you, adding the beet to it, it's delicious.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know this, dill, if you put dill in it, dill is very good for your nervous system.
Oh, good. The seeds or the fresh, or
Yeah.
seeds? Both probably.
Vegan wine you can make.
This is also a good thing. What they do in Russia is they add it to their soups and their borscht, of course. You've heard of Russian cabbage borscht. And so after the soup, because you want to retain the vitamins and the enzymes, so you wouldn't want to put it into like a bowl of steaming hot soup. But once your soup has cooled down, pour in, like about one of these cupfuls.
Why don't you
Of the
pass them
kvass.
out, because
Yeah,
you may
sure.
not need that many.
Yeah, start passing them out. Thank you.
Who wants, ask who wants.
You can have seconds. I have 3 of these full, so I have plenty. If anybody wants more.
Okay. So how much for somebody who is starting with fermented food? How much they would drink before meals or after meals?
So it's recommended to start out with fermented foods and beverages, a small amount. With the kombucha, we always tell
Like
people
2 ounces?
about 4 ounces a day. And you can break that up.
Yes.
You can drink a little bit with each meal. It helps you digest your food.
Before each meal?
Some people drink it, like they'll pour themselves a glass on ice and they'll drink it right before they eat their meal and during their meal. So a small amount, 4 ounces in the morning, 4 ounces at night is good to start with and see how your body reacts to it.
Captain Cook is here.
Oh, and I have 16-ounce pints for sale. If anybody wants to take some home, that could be your mother liquid as well. I was going to sell them for $5 each.
Yes.
So these little 16-ounce pints on them. All of mine are completely organic, and I use a really good quality sea salt.
So this is the Beet Kvass.
So your beets are organic?
Yes.
How much is it?
You grow them?
5. No, I've grown beets in the past, but these were not from mine.
somebody wonders.
You know, I have to say this too, Laura. I drink tart cherry juice because it has natural melatonin and you sleep like a baby.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And I'm thinking, this is calming me. This would be an ideal match at night before you go to sleep.
That makes sense.
First, it rejuvenates your colon.
Yeah.
Sleep time is rejuvenation time. So, yeah, it's like an ideal match.
Are you on that?
So the one that is not ready, can you see that?
That's the mother brine, yeah. Because it was ready shy.
It's a sea salt, and how much of that will we have to put on that brine?
If you're doing a quart jar, you would put about a quarter cup of brine. In mine, I did about a cup, 1 full cup of the brine.
The one that you have for me is a cup and a half.
Those would be 2 cups, right? 16 ounces?
And I have to put a quarter cup.
Quarter cup, right.
So to get
This
the
is reminiscent of horseradish.
Oh, wow.
to get the health,
Because it's a root, yeah.
to get the health benefit, we only need this size.
Yeah, or a couple times a day. A couple times a day, yeah. I think that's about 2 ounces, I want to say. So this is about, actually, that is, I don't want to actually add more, so that's about a good amount. So I'm just going to sprinkle. Can I have a second? Then when you want to walk around and ask them if they want more? Here, in there, in the cups that they
Children, if all children came out as well as your two drinking beds, everybody should be considered children.
So, and also instead of stirring it, the recipe calls to stir it, I just shake it up. You don't have to really sit there and stir it. I just put the lid on nice and tight and shake it. And then that's ready to sit in a couple of days.
Where did you get, what kind of water did you add to it?
This is filtered water. It's filtered well water because it's Redland on the farm, and this is filtered water. It's really good to use filtered water, but you don't want to use fluorinated, water.
Do you use, you grow beets?
I should grow a farmer. I should grow.
Both other beets were cold weather.
Yeah,
Are they more of a cold weather?
Are they? Yeah. No, I think you can grow here.
The beets are
I
organic.
think you can. Yeah, these are again. They're probably grown in, California or Maybe we should make this like a door prize. Are we doing like a
Yes, I want to do those right here.
If you want to. That's a beauty. I hope I win it. I might even cheat,
Yeah, they're going to be that for a price, so if somebody wants to get the pie,
Thank you, Laura.
My pleasure.
Laura, is there any more to say about it?
I mean, yeah, actually,
There's more.
so one more thing, if I may have your attention, one more minute. There is a device called the Perfect Pickler. I don't know if any of you have heard of it, but it's a kit, basically. These people over in Bradenton, Florida make it and sell it. I have some pamphlets here for it, and it's just to help you, ferment vegetables. And so it's a little kit. This is what the pack looks like that you'll get in the mail when you order one. I think it's somewhere around $20. I don't remember the exact price. But I meant to have this with me when I did the sauerkraut presentation, but it didn't come in the mail in time. So I thought I would bring it tonight. So if anybody wants to know about the Perfect Pickler, this is the pamphlet here. So if you could each take one of these, I would love it. And this is an example of their kit.
so you're the one who made that delicious sauerkraut.
Yes, that's me, the
Did you
sauerkraut.
bring some?
I didn't, no. I didn't, I should have, I know.
May I ask you, I want to tell you that this is for the Beet Kvass. Everything that is food, edible,